Hey there. So I was kind of thinking about this. I was going to take more time to write about this, and I probably will. Because I want to clarify my thoughts around this, but because it's on my mind, we're just going to talk about it for a second. So the movie review that I'm working on is for the film Where the Crawdads Sing. Now, it's a really, really wonderful film about a female protagonist who is an outcast. So there's so much going on here. So she lives with her mother and father in basically this bayou we can say it's in Louisiana, but it's like a small country town in the South, okay? Now, she is very poor. Her family is poor. Like, nobody works. I think she ends up learning how to collect oysters and selling them in town. That's another thing we have to clarify. Like, the bayou is kind of like this rural area by the swamp, right? And then there's like the people who live in the city. Now, she travels, like, her family has a boat. So she gets in the boat and travels by boat to the city in order to sell these oysters that she collects in the bayou. That is like her source of income, basically. But let's start at the beginning. So when she is a child, her father is abusive toward everyone in the home. So she has like 3 or 4 brothers. No, wait, she's got like 2 brothers and a sister and a mother. Those are all of the other people in the home. Now, her mother is the first one to run away because her mother is tired of her father beating her ass. Like, he punches her in the face. He's like kicking her into chairs. He's an abusive husband, right? They are married and everything. They have a family. But I think it's a good example, in this story, pointing out one of the poverty problems. Some people like to equate marriage with happy families and marriage with partnership and healthy relationships and like happiness and stuff. Now, sometimes that is the case, but not all the time, and also not most of the time. Like, this is a really great example of a white family who's married with a home, but they're poor, and the father's abused. He's an abusive drunk. So he's got all these like emotional issues that he really needs to deal with in like therapy and not take it out on the bottle, but that's not what happens. He takes it out on his family members. He takes it out on his children. He beats up the mother. He beats up the children. So basically, first the mother runs away, then all of her siblings run away, and she's the only person left there with her father. Now, she's like, she basically figures out how to live with him, and her strategy for living with him is staying out of his way. So basically, like, when he's in the house, she stays in her room. If he's in the kitchen, she leaves the house, and she had to learn how to fend for herself. So that literally means, like, she had to learn how to collect food, like, soar around the pond and find shit to eat, find things to do. And the one day that she tries to go to the city and enroll in school, literally everyone laughs at her because she has this like raggedy dress and no shoes. And they say she's like a hobo basically, and she doesn't even feel welcome in the public school, right? So now that she doesn't feel welcome in school and like her father is like beating the shit out of her at home, like where else is there for her to go? She just travels around the bayou like all day. That's basically what she does. I just think it's a fucking interesting ass story, because then she does this for years. So then she turns of age, so she becomes like 18, and so people around town know her. She's like swamp girl and shit. So she's like the weirdo. But the strange part about this is like she's not really that weird. I mean, she learned how to fucking raise herself on oysters, and she even started a business selling oysters to like a merchant in town. Now, one thing that was kind of interesting when she was 18, and she had this boyfriend, some other local dude from town, and he's like, I don't want to be in this little swamp town forever. I'm gonna go off to college and make something of myself. So there's this other narrative around like someone in a very rural small town making a transition into the city for city life and college, like college being this entity, this system, this life experience that could potentially like change your entire life, right? And so she's like, well, I'm not going to college, and if you go to college, you're going to meet all these great, smart, cultured women, and you're going to leave me. You're going to leave me, and then I'm going to be alone. And so he actually does go to college. And the shady part is, when he goes to college, he doesn't even write her any letters or anything. It's almost like he believed he was so much better than her. And this was like supposed to be the love of his life. Like, she was the love of his life. Now, okay, so then there's this other guy who comes into the picture, and he is, I don't know, I guess he's like the local like stud or whatever. And he becomes the manager at like Easy Stop. It's basically like a gas station, but this is like a big ass deal to him. And he's like, I'm gonna marry you, and blah 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 blah. And she's like, oh, I love you. So like he's spending all this time with her. They're going on picnics at the beach every night. And it just turns out, so one day she's in the city making a little errand or whatever, and she sees him, and he is literally there with his fiance, and he introduces her to his fiance as his fiance. So like, here's the new girl. And his fiance is like standing next to him. He's like, hey girl, let me introduce you to my fiance. And she's like, I'm sorry, what? You were just with me last night talking about how we're gonna get married, and here you are all propped up with a whole other girl. So she like loses her shit. She like runs home. She's like, oh my god, you know, she's just like, she runs back to the bayou because like this is where she feels safe. And it makes sense because like obviously she doesn't feel safe in the city where everyone has like ostracized her and said that she was like this weird ass gremlin. And now even the one guy who she felt like, you know, safe with, he turns out to be a piece of shit. So there's nothing else. There's nothing. Where's there to go? There ain't nowhere to go, right? So she's like, fuck it, I'm gonna go to the bayou. And then she basically realizes that there's like property taxes due on her little cottage house, and whoever pays the property taxes can own the home, and it's like $5,000. Now, before her old boyfriend left, he basically told her like he teaches her how to read and write and draw. So she starts drawing all these pictures of like shit in the bayou, right? And she's like a really good artist. She's really good. So he's like, what you can do is turn these pictures into a book, sell the book to these publishers. They will publish the book for you of all your drawings, and you could basically make a living. So she pulls up this list of publishers that he had given her like 5 years before. And she's like, well, this is the only way I have to pay the property taxes. So this is what I'm going to do. And that's what she does. And it actually ends up working out. She like pays the property taxes, and she makes like so much more money. So now she has this entire career as like a book publisher. So now in town, everybody sees her book. She is like this, she's now an author, right? So even the guy who was the Easy Stop dude who's the manager, he's like, oh my god, you're like a big book writer now. Oh my god, and I don't know why, after she writes the book, he now feels like she is like worthy of more. And then he comes to rape her. Like, that's a whole, like, I don't know why that was the move. In his mind, he felt that this was a good idea. So now that she's written the book, he thinks it's a good idea to rape her. He proceeds to try to do it. And then it was like, where's your wife, sir? This whole last time you were here being a piece of shit. And then now that you're like happily married and she's a book writer, everybody should be like happy ever after. But no, because men are trash. And he still feels the need to go rape her after she has like moved on, built a life and career for herself without him. He's not even a part of the narrative anymore. And here he comes, and maybe this is one of the themes I will like unpack with this film, because it's like, why can't people just let others grow and thrive without regard to them? Like, let's say if I have like a bad interaction with you on Tuesday and I'm like, ooh, that didn't go well. Okay, so I don't want to have any more of those bad interactions, excuse me. I want to go have good interactions. I've learned from my mistake. I'm moving forward. I'm moving on. Why can't you as a society just let me grow? Like, why is it that if I grow, it's a problem for you? That's what I feel like the community is doing to this character. They're pretending as though like her growth is troublesome for them in some way. Like, she wrote a book and her book was great. It got published. She ends up writing like 7 books. But it's a problem. It's a problem. Like, how? Like, why? I don't know. But that's what happens. So let's break down some of those themes later, and I'll write these out because I have nothing better to do.